Hello and welcome to another edition of IIABCAL Voices. I'm your host, James Lott Jr. And creating community, outreach, and also sharing knowledge are very important components to the insurance industry perpetuation and just community itself. Well, for those of us who may be othered in that community, we also need representation and also again, sharing knowledge, community, and all that kind of stuff. So one way to do that, podcast, that's one way to do that. That's why we started this podcast. And others starting other podcasts, but these two gentlemen who are in the insurance industry and a part of our Big Eye of California are actually got a podcast that's out. It just came out, if I believe, 2 days ago, as we're taping this, 2 days ago. It's called Asians in Insurance. And you can see them, they're Asian and they're in insurance. So we're going to talk about what that all means, who are these people, and do they like hosting? That's my job. Welcome the VP and President, respectively, of J. Morey Company, Brian Chu and Joshua Morey. How are you guys?
How's it going? Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
My pleasure, of course. We're all family. So, okay, here's the deal. So, congratulations, first of all, for having a podcast. I know what it's like. I have 45 of them, so I know what it's like. Okay, so first question before I even get to all the little nuts and bolts, I think it's kind of fun. And have you both ever hosted anything before?
Well, for maybe how this came about a little bit was I did a little. It wasn't an official podcast, but I did some videos here or there via Zoom and also in person pre-COVID, interviewing millennials in insurance. And just wanted to put folks on because there were some incredible people in the industry I wanted to highlight and get their word out and highlight their experience and their perspectives, et cetera, because I didn't see that so much out there. I guess part of that, but Josh and I have known each other a long time. He gave me a call and said, "Hey, I have this thought about doing a video podcast interview folks in the Asian community that are in insurance and gain their perspective and share their perspective, their experiences and all that stuff." And he got through about 2 sentences and I was just like, I'm in. I'm in.
You got that smooth, velvety voice talking to you like, yeah, and then insurance. I'm like, okay, I might get the voice. I hear it. I hear the voice. I hear it. Okay, Brian, I hear you.
Josh is incredibly persuasive.
Well, yeah. So Joshua, I'm like, where did this come from for you? I don't remember you saying you wanted to do a podcast when I talked to you last. I don't remember that.
No, it was never on my radar, but I have this book of ideas, and anytime I get an idea, I just write it down. And so I wrote it down one day, and it was marinating for about a week or two. And I said, you know what? I need to reach out to Brian here and see if we can do something together. And whether it was going to be a podcast or it's just discussions that we're having with people that we know. We didn't know what it was going to turn out to be. And I have no experience hosting. So, I was, hey, Brian, I need your help because you've hosted some of these millennial podcasts in insurance. So that's really why I reached out. And Brian just is one of the best in the business when it comes to insurance too. And he happens to be Asian. And so we just started talking. And then we started creating this Excel spreadsheet of people that we knew that were Asian within the industry. And the surprising part to me was the list that Brian came up with. I knew none of those people. And the list that I came up with, he knew none of those people. And so then we're like, okay, this is really going to provide an opportunity for us as Asians to network with each other. And just to know that there's support, that we can help share our stories, what it's like to be Asian in this industry. And then the real purpose to inspire the next generation of Asian Americans that insurance is a great industry that people can get into. And there's so many different opportunities within that. So that's really the genesis of where we got to and film the first season, and we're going to start filming our second season pretty shortly here.
Yeah, and just one thing to add is everybody has always said insurance is the best kept secret in terms of an industry, and within the AAPI community, it's always been be an engineer, be a doctor, be an attorney. And when I told my mom that I got into insurance, she asked me if I was going to sell life insurance, which is always no knock against life insurance,
Right,
but that's
right.
always the perception, or State Farm or Farmers and all that stuff. And it was a great opportunity for Josh and I to highlight folks that are incredible in the industry, mid-level, on up as well. And nobody knows who these folks are because I think culturally, at least for me and my perspective, it's do great work, keep your head down, stay quiet, and there's not a lot of networking that's done in the community. Case in point, and I'm on a soapbox a little bit, but you look at all the other agencies and the executive committees and all that stuff, and there may be one AAPI represented in the executive committee, and usually it's in finance or in technology or something along those lines. So I just want to throw that out there.
Well, Joshua knows this about me. I was raised with a Japanese godfather, Chinese godmother, and that whole family. So I know for a fact and they raised me as just one of their children. So I mean, I was like just one of the kids. I called them mom and dad, the whole thing. And I remember I went to nursing. At first, like, why don't you want to be a doctor? And that was the whole thing. So I know, I mean, I was just talking about. Just kind of like staying like, well, I don't want to be a doctor. I was, whatever. So when I left that, to wait till when I told them I was going to entertainment, they're like, what's that? I'm going into entertainment. I'm going to be a star. They didn't get that either. But that's a cultural thing. And so I think it's great that you guys are breaking some of those stereotypes, are also showing people that you can have a career in insurance. Is stable. It's family friendly. It helps society, all these things that can still, and you can make money too at the same time. If that's what speaks to certain cultures, making money. So I think this is a great step for you guys, the next generation, to do this. It just makes sense, so I love that. But I was like, I only know, so if I was in the insurance industry for 11 years, I worked for IBA West, when it was IBA West, an insurance skill center. And I only knew Tim Tanaka. I think I knew like 2 people that were Asian. That was it. That was it. I mean, literally, that was it. And that was it. I didn't see much. I knew no black people. I never met a black person in 11 years I was there. Some Hispanic, of course. There was Hispanic. But that was it. I mean, anybody who was indigenous. It was a very, but I know that I would see some names and I figured they're out there, but you're right. You need the outreach.
And I'll pass it on to Josh. But what attracted me when he reached out was kind of along the same vein of millennials in insurance. There's this whole group of great folks that are just they're working behind the scenes that nobody knows about. And I was just like, this would be awesome to give them a voice and get them exposure a little bit. And for us, that next generation to see that there are awesome people that may have similar backgrounds as me that are just crushing it in areas that are in insurance outside of the traditional life insurance, traditional P&C. I mean, we have somebody that focuses on parametrics, and that just stay tuned for that one because that'll blow everybody away. But Josh, we'll kick it over to him.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of people that I look up to in this industry, and my dad and uncles being some of them.
Of course,
but there's
yeah, I knew his dad, so I knew that was one of them.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of people that we look up to, but there's not a lot of Asians that we know of that we can really look up to and, be proactive to ask them how did you get to the place that you're at? And to Brian's point, a lot of us just want to keep our heads down and just, hey, we're doing great work. We don't need the recognition. We don't need the publicity. But I think our community does, because our community is doing really great things. And the timeliness of when we were recording this podcast was when, America, this was last year, we're going through a lot of things surrounding Asian hate. And so we're able to ask some of our guests, how is that impacting you? And now we're, fast forward a year later, we're seeing instance of this continuing to repeat, right? And so it allows us to, I think it's very timely for us to be able to get leaders within our communities, within our industry, to give some voice and leadership around issues such as Asian hate, and how can we then communicate about that internally so that, you know, we can have a louder voice of what are some of those struggles that we're going through on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, and that was unplanned, but I think, you know, for this podcast, very timely.
For the most part, a lot of things get unplanned that become wonderful things. Go ahead, Brian.
I mean, we came up yesterday in a conversation, pay equity and gender pay equity on top of that. There's so many nooks and crannies that just have been, I guess, talked about in a white paper, but not really discussed in a forum.
That's what I'm saying. I've been doing this. This is why I create this podcast. Yeah, and Joshua knows he was on before, that it's not that insurance isn't stuffy. Insurance isn't just old white men, so to speak. There are women in the business who've been in for years. There are women, wonderful women, who've been in for years who created change in this industry. Let's learn about them. Let's highlight them, spot them. Younger people, you know, people with disabilities are in the business. I mean, that's what this show's all about, the voices. So I think you're continuing that tradition of just kind of like, let's just spotlight people so you can see what they're doing in a way that can be engaging, not necessarily just like the stiff industry, like don't smile kind of. I'm like, people know me, I smile all the time, so I can't help it. But that's just kind of, but that's the thing. It's like, this is a great, that's why I love doing this podcast. It's a great industry, and it's very vast. It's a very broad industry. It's not just 2 or 3 things. There's so many things that you can do in this business, right?
Yep.
I mean, so many things.
Exactly. Yeah. And Brian never smiles. And so I'm glad you got Brian to smile at least.
Yeah. No. I can tell he's a frowner. He's like,
definitely have the frown lines going.
But okay, but so how many episodes did you guys record?
We're at 10 now. And we already have another 10. I mean, since we did a soft announcement, I think at the last count, we have another 10 of people that want to be part of season 2. And frankly, I'm not sure if we're going to do it in seasons anymore, because at this point, it's probably just going to keep rolling. There's so many people that have come out of, I don't want to say nowhere, but I think it's really striking a chord with folks in the community.
I think sometimes it's easier to go with someone you know or looks like you. Sometimes it feels safer to talk. You feel like you'll be heard. Not saying you may not be somewhere else, but it's easier for folks to come out when it's someone who looks like you.
No, it definitely is, and the proof's in the pudding. Where we launched this podcast this week, and I gotta tell you, my LinkedIn inbox is just like full of thank yous. How do I connect? Can you meet for coffee? And it's younger people that are just getting into the industry, people that are not even in insurance that are like, hey, wow, it sounds like a great opportunity. And then also more seasoned people in the industry too, just saying, this is very timely. We need this. So, you know, our production of it, we've done it very bootstrapped. So, you know, we have these virtual backgrounds. We're just using Zoom. We hope that the production level of it will at some point get better and better. But at the end of the day, we're just looking to tell the stories and to connect our community. And so that, you know, that's what we're doing. And Brian, your inbox is probably just as full as mine, but the feedback has been amazing.
I want to tell you something. It's an even playing field right now because of the pandemic. Network TV uses Zoom. We use Zoom. Everybody uses Zoom right now. So I say never feel bad. And this is going to be a time period when we look back on all this and go, wow, these last couple of years, you know, entertainment, technology was very interesting. I mean, I'm watching The View and somebody's thing is wobbly because their Wi-Fi is like we're all on an even playing field now. That's just, I just want you to know that it's okay. That hopefully when we come out of this eventually, that yes, we can get back to stronger technology and stuff. But I put out 40 shows a week, whatever. I don't care. I'm just like, it's here, looking at it. Hopefully you enjoy it. Hope the message isn't lost. So for you guys, I'm sure the message is not being lost. It's just, you know, it's technology. I think everybody knows now at this point. It is what it is.
Yeah.
James, we so appreciate you. we're always learning, Josh and I, and whether it's you or any of your listeners, would love feedback on how we can improve and bring more value and bring more voices to the community. So it's just a little teaser in Josh and my view. It's not only about Asians in insurance; it's about minority voices, and you touched on some of them. And not just about the color of your skin. It's about your circumstance and as well. So we would love to hear more voices.
I was going to say, everyone should listen to it, period. Just because you use some insight, you may see some, there's a lot of sameness with us. There's a lot of sameness across us, cultures and communities and circumstance. We just said circumstance. That's so true. A lot of us want the 4 or 5 same things. And when it comes to our jobs and our community, if you're in insurance, there are certain things we all want. You want to be successful, you want community, you want connection, you want to move. We all want the same things, regardless of what it is. So come to this podcast, you can actually see what people are talking about. They may say something, you go, aha. Like you were saying earlier, the goal is in the conversations. I say it to everybody. That's always my advice to other podcasters is listen. I have your notes. Like I have my little notes. I have my notes or whatever, but I listen. And that's what I've been doing this for 7 years. I've been doing this part 7 years. And I'm telling you, the goal is, like you said, it's in the conversation. They'll say something, you're like, wow, that's like amazing. And your listeners get a takeaway of something they may not even expect it.
Yeah, I've learned a lot from you because I watched some of your podcasts, and maybe we can do a co-hosted Asians in Insurance podcast with you, and you can come join us.
I would anytime. I would do it. I would totally do it. I would totally do it. I would totally tell you how it's done. I'm just kidding. No, I would.
That was good.
No. So actually, I want to ask you guys, because I have co-hosts. How do you guys finding your rhythm? And I know what that's like.
Oh, that's fine. I'm gonna let Josh go first.
Oh, he's so nice. He's so nice. But there's a rhythm to it. So I just wondering how you guys find your rhythm.
Well, like you just said, we have some notes, and we want to dig deep into like learning more about how did you get to the point where you're at. So we'll lead with questions as tell us about your upbringing. What are some of the values that your parents, or your grandparents, or your community instilled in you? So we have these kind of leading questions of where we want to take it. But what happens inevitably is we just start riffing off each other, and it's really helped actually Brian and my relationship to get to know each other better too. Is I've learned so much just about my co-host Brian through being able to spend 30 minutes or an hour in prep and recording. So that's been one of the huge benefits for me, Brian, honestly, is just to get to know you better personally.
We're going to do a little bromance hug over here.
I love it.
I'm going to do a 2-hand too. But it's also, you get to know somebody by the questions they ask. Yes. Right. And what's resonating. And, there's an element of, my fault is that when I get really excited, I start to cut people off. And, so I've had to kind of learn how to do that. Where Josh and I, we try to keep it for 30 minutes, and we regularly have conversations about, okay, well, leave space here for the back and forth, because there may be a lot of meat there where we want to probe a little bit and get more out. So we're definitely learning, and that's where soliciting comments and feedback and all that stuff from the listeners, because at the end of the day, as much as Josh and I learn from the folks that we're interviewing, it's for the audience, right? And that's the whole point. So it's always back to feedback, and we're craving that. We don't have a lot of feedback yet because we just launched it, so we're starting to get some of that. But in terms of cadence, it's always a learning process.
Well, you said something that's very important for people out there. Period. We don't just wake up out of bed and do podcasts. Podcasting, you're producing a show. No matter if it's 25 minutes or 2 hours. I know that like I said, I've been doing it for 7 years. I know for a fact how it is. And you can't go to your show unprepared. And people don't understand. You think, well, I just talk. I just talk. I'm like, no, you have to actually have some idea what you're going to talk about, the structure of the show, but also stay open. And also stay open to the possibility of discovery. And that's actually the fun part. That's a really fun part of that. Discovery. So I think, he'll be back. He'll be a little moment. But I think I want folks to understand is that this is something that takes time to kind of pull together, make it flow. And you learn, like I said, the early stuff, you'll learn stuff as you later go, God, I'm right to do that. My first show, I said so 10,000 times that episode. So I never use it now. I never use that word is on my vocabulary. I never ever use it. So
it's incredible. Well, I have a question for you, James.
Yes.
We've interviewed folks.
You talk about technical difficulties, though.
I know.
You were just mentioning that, James. I'm actually traveling for work today, and the Wi-Fi has got me. The Wi-Fi got me. So I'm dialing.
It got you. I said he'll be back. He'll be back. It was a few seconds. Only a minute or so. He'll be back. He'll be back.
It totally works.
But you have a question for me? Yes.
So my question for you, James, is a lot of the folks that, and this is back to, gaining voices or highlighting voices that have not always had a voice, and it's so interesting. A lot of the folks we've been interviewing have never been interviewed. So would love your feedback, tips, and whatnot, and also maybe this can be a piece of content that helps somebody else in one of those. I say minority in air quotes, but because it's like what we just established, it could be circumstance. Yeah. Maybe somebody out there wants to do a podcast to highlight other voices. So maybe, James, if we can solicit your feedback and your tips on that note.
Yeah, no, that's why I did this podcast. That's why I invited us also on for folks to see that this is a marketing tool also. This podcast is, your podcast is. That's the big job. We're not doing this all just to sit around and hang out with each other. We're trying to market, we're trying to recruit, we're trying to perpetuate the industry. That's why I want to do this podcast in particular, show people that here are two examples. Here's an example of someone thinking outside the box. That's like the normal box is you just, like I said, put your head down and grind and hopefully advertise and people will find you. No, this is one way to do it. Podcasting is a viable way of gaining more clients, clientele, connections, colleagues. So one of my things always is, as long as you're earnest and anything goes. So I think with people who are nervous about or camera shy or they're nervous, sometimes I offer talking to them first beforehand, so you get to know me a little bit, and say we're fine. I'm easy breezy. Sending sample questions. There are times when people ask me for questions. I'll say, sure, I answer any questions. Now, I may not always ask those exact. We're not going to do an exact back and forth, but I make sure they feel comfortable. Let's go. Just these are some questions I'm going to ask you. It's all about you and your business. So because you guys do the same thing. So it's about you and your business. There's no trick questions. Like I always make jokes like, do you know how you work? Do you know your job? Yes, then you'll be fine. So I try to make them feel comfortable. Sometimes they don't have time to do a talk beforehand. It may be before you start the show. You have like a little 5-minute kind of back and forth, make them feel comfortable. And that's one way you do it too, because some folks are just naturally camera shy, or now you say being asked questions. I'm an interviewer. So the first times I was interviewed, it felt weird. And I do this for a living. I was like, I'm not in control. Okay, it felt weird for a minute. So my first couple of interviews where I was being interviewed myself, like, why do you want to talk to me? Why do you want to talk to me? It felt a little weird. No, to do it. But there is, being interviewed also, there's this weird thing of being nervous that you're going to say the wrong thing. So you may also just tell them, this can be edited out. If something's wrong, and edit it out. I just think people do just have natural fears. Speaking in public, as you know, is the biggest fear. Death is second. It's like, speaking in public, it's like that's first. People are, when it comes, and they tell them, it's not really about you. It is about you, but we're not asking you personal questions about your relationships or anything. We're saying, in your business life, how did it affect you? How does this work for you? How am I making it work for you? It's about work. It's about spotlighting your work, your good work. And some folks have a hard time taking praise. That happens sometimes too. So it can be a little tough. You learn about people and how they are, but most of the time they're fine. After that, then they're fine. They start talking, you can't get them to stop. And like you said, then you're thinking, it's only 25 minutes. I had one actress, I deal with all kinds of people, big actresses and everything. And she said, you can't talk about me for 45 minutes. I go, watch me. And literally, I had to shut her up at 45 minutes. We could have kept going. I had we call it a hard out. I had a hard out at 50 minutes. So I was like, I do my whole exit and outro and everything. But she was like, I just talked for 45 minutes. I go, yeah, I told you. So they just get nervous and they get in their heads. Your job And anybody out there who's doing podcasting, your job is to make them feel comfortable and safe and secure and okay. And Joshua, when I first interviewed, did you feel safe with me? I guess it's gonna be an example. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt super safe. I mean, we had a 5-minute conversation on Grogu just before hopping on. So,
but sometimes that's the way to do it too. Sometimes you're talking about something else that loosens them up. It's an old trick in the business. It's like an old trick in the business. And not, I say trick being funny, but like everybody knows this. Like sometimes you like juggling. And so one day I was juggling on air one day and it made them all excited about juggling. And I was like, okay, put the balls down. Let's talk about this, about climate change. You know, like then they're raised about climate change. Like it was completely disarming people. And people just want to know they're not going to be taken advantage of, that they're not going to look bad. That's all people want to know, basically. Those are two basics I found in my experience. So long as you don't jet to people, you know, you're here to spotlight them. That's what I do. That's what you do. That's what we're here to spotlight them.
Yeah, that's really good feedback.
Yeah.
awesome.
So that's my deal. So that's why I want to do this podcast. I want to show people this is a viable option to not just regular means of marketing. If you have the skill, you have the desire to do it. Videos are great too. Little videos are good also to do. But podcasting, I love podcasts. I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't love it. I think it's not a way. I love conversations. Everyone has a story. And so now you guys will be highlighting stories of real people who are in this wonderful business who have things to share. And I think there's nothing better. To me, there's nothing better than that. You know, so
And so many of the people that we talk to, I don't want to say so many, every single person we've talked to, they have such a giving heart. And it's just so awesome to be around that in the industry.
yeah, definitely. So Agents of Insurance, where can they find it?
Everywhere.
So
We're trying to
are-
put it everywhere.
Go ahead, Brian.
Well, right now it's on LinkedIn. We have Vimeo. We're going to be putting it up on YouTube. We're working through SoundCloud, all that stuff. Facebook. So we're trying to just get it everywhere because, you know, we want to meet people for where they are.
I have a suggestion for it. I'll tell you off camera.
Oh, please, thanks.
I have a suggestion. All right. Well, thanks, you guys. You know, so Agents of Insurance, that's the podcast. Go ahead and check it out. Joshua Morey, Brian Chu, thanks for being on the show always. And I'll do a show with you guys. I have no problem. I'll do it. I will totally do it.
And
We're going to take you up on that, James.
Yes. I mean,
Thanks, James.
we'll have a good time. Trust me, we'll have a good time.
Yeah.
And all stuff. If they want to follow Jay Morey Company or anything, tell them where they can find you guys there also. This is a business too, folks. So where can they find you guys?
Yeah, you can find us on LinkedIn, J Morey Insurance. We're also created a parent company called Origin, which is, you know, the origination of things. Remember where you came from, create a new future. And so really that's, you know, we have our legacies that we're building within insurance, and we want to build more legacies to perpetuate these legacies through Origin. So yeah, origin.com, ORI-GEN.com.
Very good. Thank you. So you guys, check it out, please. Where you find podcasts, check it out. Like I said, on LinkedIn and stuff, check them out. I'll put some links in the description, of course. And this is IIABCAL Voices. I'm James Lott Jr. IIABCAL Voices is on all streaming service platforms from iHeartRadio to Spotify to Apple, Google, and on my YouTube channel. My YouTube network is JLJ Media here on YouTube. So hit the little subscribe button. I always point it somewhere down here. It's a red rectangle, but subscribe in it. And hit the bell. There's a whole playlist, and Joshua's in one of the episodes. So you can check that out where I talk to people in the insurance industry, and we have a good time. Everybody, please take care of each other, and we'll see each other next time.